Amber Ashes by G. M. Blackjack. Chapter 32. Fates. Applejack did exactly what she said she was going to do. She went back to the mesh. Immediately, Blueberry made her the head gardener and gave her dozens of other trees, most imported from the other worlds. Applejack quickly promoted another mechanic to head gardener and gave herself the role of first gardener. She didn't like being in charge, to put it mildly. "You know, Applejack, I notice you don't walk in time with the mesh anymore," Dust said one day. Applejack was picking some apples off a tree and putting them in a bucket. You don't move like, clank, clank, clank anymore." Applejack shrugged. "The mesh is speeding back up. Can't time my life by it anymore." "And that doesn't bother you? Wow! All the other ponies like you are throwing a fit." "If they're throwing a fit, they don't understand what makes them mechanics in the first place." She picked up a hose and turned the water on, carefully giving each tree the sprinkling it needed to grow up strong. "We stand together here." "Strange. Ever since the other portals started opening, things seem to be changing." "Of course things would change. The mesh isn't all there is to the machine of life." "Just makes me think old Spanner might have had a point. Remember those things Spanner used to say about being part of the machine? We always thought he was kind of crazy." Applejack smiled sadly. Maybe he had a point, but maybe he didn't. The ponies out there were free to do whatever they wanted. They didn't seem to have it figured out any better than we do. Dust nodded. True. "So, how many hero-worshipping visitors have you had today?" "2, Applejack said. Annoyingly. I'm thinking of asking Rainbow to get her fancy teleporters to move my orchard to another district so they can't find me." "They don't really get in the way of your work. It's still really annoying." She hopped onto her personal spider and crawled to the top of the largest tree, her original apple tree. She got out and started picking more apples and checking for bugs. Ever since those bugs had gotten through the portals, they'd done nothing but make her trees miserable. "I'd like the attention." "You're a manager. I'm not." Dust nodded. To be fair, being a super high manager isn't really that great anymore. I mean, I guess we're not stressed all the time, but holy clanking gears are we shouting a lot. The Marodi won't shut up about labor laws and all that nonsense. Just, why can't we wind up the mesh and be done with it? Applejack shrugged. "Dunno. Don't care. I want to tend to my orchard." Dust stamped a hoof on the ground in annoyance, before laughing and shaking her head. "You have it easy up there, Applejack. Got everything figured out, huh?" Applejack snorted. "Definitely not. I just know that I'm not going to figure it out. The full machine's too complicated. Might as well get used to where I am." "Are you saying trying to become one with the mesh isn't a good idea?" "I don't know what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying." "What? Wait. Hold on. What?" Applejack chuckled. "Maybe you should take a moment and not try to figure it out." Dust sputtered incoherently. "Never thought I'd see the day I get Dust at a loss for words." Dust rubbed her head. Applejack, you're strange." "Side effect of being a pony, I hear." "Funny." With a roll of her eyes, Dust trotted away. "See you next cycle." "Sure thing." Pinky sighed in bed one night. "Hazel, how bad did I mess my head up?" Hazel groaned. "You really want to talk about this now?" "I'm a mare. It's the middle of the night. I'm not asleep." "Duh, of course I do." "I feel like you're projecting one of your characters on yourself." "Ooh, maybe they're possessing me." With a grunt, Hazel sat up and turned on the light. "Okay, yes, you messed up your head, but you also fixed it? Not really sure you can undo it without messing your head further. So I think I'll just keep loving you anyway." Pinky giggled. "I'm not doubting you. I don't think I can." "Oh, How blind are we? That's the problem! We don't know! Pinky snorted. Though, seriously, I feel fine. Happy. Very happy, actually. There's just this little nagging voice in the back of my head sometimes that something's not quite right. God's way of making sure you don't forget and try it again? Maybe. Pinky furrowed her brow. No, stupid brain, now is not the time for multiversal theology class. Ah! Your brain has been doing that a lot lately. I haven't been writing. Pinky twitched. I wrote to get all the things out of my head. Now my head's filling up and... She laughed nervously. I'm going to have to let it out somehow. Maybe try something other than books? Any creative work can define a world. Any. Hazel frowned. Do you have any ideas? I'm trying to think of what to do along the line of Fluttershy's advice. Find another thing I can do, you know? She wanted to be a hunter. She's a weaponsmith. I wanted to be an author, and now I'm going to be a... She tapped her hoof against the bed. I don't know. What are prophets good for? Predicting the future? Funny. I mean, what can we do that's helpful and not actually super duper mega dangerous? It's probably dangerous regardless. Yeah. Doesn't mean you can't use it. You could be a superhero or something. Not sure how I feel about that. The Marodi know a lot about this whole prophet thing. They can probably introduce you to some others. Maybe even put you on a program of some sort? Wouldn't that be bad for you and the whole politics thing? Earth hasn't adapted to the Marodi yet. Want to know a secret? I talked to the Marodi overhead of relations. She says this initial panic always happens. Our Earth is, so far, just a textbook case, and it won't take but a few years and minimal effort to fully absorb us. Wow. Is Earth really that common? Most common universe type, apparently. Usually filled with humans, though. I knew that. Point is, you can go gallivanting off with the Marodi as PD Prophet. It's not going to do much here. She kissed him. But I probably won't be around you as much. I don't know. You went on a huge adventure and saved the world without me. You'll be fine. Just make sure you're home in time to make dinner. We both know I'll just stick some veggies and ramen noodles in a bowl and call it gourmet. Nah, we'll get one of those food replicators. Pinky giggled. You're insane, Hazel. Insanely brilliant, that is. I know. You tell me all the time. They kissed again, and there wasn't much in the way of talking the rest of the night. Fluttershy had gotten new eyes about a week after losing them. They were fine, but they didn't quite look the same as her old ones. Curiously, they worked better than her old ones, since apparently she'd needed glasses. Of course, now that her eyes were perfect, she was wearing glasses, like Renee, to keep from giving off the uncanny valley effect whenever she looked at ponies. There were contacts for that. To put it simply, she didn't trust contacts not to fall out in the middle of a tense moment at work and shatter into a million pieces, ruining the weapon and making her order a new one. Was that unreasonable? Probably. But at least she was well aware of where her glasses were at all times. Plus, her glasses had ornate little dragon carvings on the rims. That was cool. She loved dragons. A race of monsters that weren't monsters. They were amazing. The first day after she'd gotten her eyes back, she went sparring with one. Best experience ever. The next day, she had returned home to Musk, and not only been welcomed back as a hero, but as a goddess. Saturn. That had, unfortunately, gotten out. She still had her halo and everything, so it wasn't like it was easy to deny it. She refused to comment on the other gods, and she didn't go back to talk to them. They didn't deserve it. Though maybe they didn't quite deserve the hateful language that was in the pamphlet going around. Or maybe they did. Fluttershy didn't spend much time in the town itself after that. She retired to her workshop and got to work. She framed her bruised and battered shield on the wall, and promptly got to making a new one. Her friends showed up from time to time, and she gladly stopped her work to go eating out with them, but every moment of her work was spent on making a new shield. This one didn't have her butterfly symbol on it. It had the 6-circle rune design. Otherwise, it was functionally the same, though a bit lighter. Not to mention, enchanted with the best enchantment given to her by Twilight, Shrink and Grow. Now it could fit in her pocket. She could pull it out if she was expecting something to jump her at any time. Renee had talked about the possibility of altering her brain to fix the wiring issue, but they'd quickly decided that it would also rewire her personality. Fluttershy had, naturally, declined. She'd lived like this all her life, and was content. Why fix what wasn't broken? Once her shield was complete, she opened up her shop to the public again. The need for weapons was dying down, since the monsters were being hunted to extinction by Unity and the Marodi, but Fluttershy could easily make a living selling trinkets with enchantments on them. Only one problem. Roughly a third of the customers decided they had to bow to her and offer reverence for Saturn before buying anything. Some demanded they should pay her more. A lot more sometimes. She also kept getting a lot of donations. "That's it," Fluttershy said one day, flopping into a chair next to the Red Twins. "I need a change of pace. I can't be Saturn for every pony." "So leave," Riot suggested. "You killed the King of Monsters. You don't really need to be a legendary blacksmith here anymore." "Huh," Fluttershy blinked. "I guess you're right. But what would I do?" Twilight and Rainbow stood on the surface of Earth within Unity. "This place is boring. I can see why I never visited," Twilight commented. Rainbow raised an eyebrow. "Do all your planets have overly creative and determined hairless apes on them?" "They're not hairless, and there are plenty of more interesting races. Ponies, dragons, those guys that don't stop yelling, the energy beings, and these new things in the other galaxy that are basically all teeth. Humans are just... How do you describe something more ordinary than ordinary?" Rainbow rolled her eyes. "You're a bundle of boredom." Twilight shrugged. "Maybe. It is the curse, after all." "Think we fixed that?" Twilight snorted. "If by fixed, you mean nobody wants to trust the Unity Helix to run everything anymore, then yeah, we fixed it." "It's still running everything, isn't it?" "Oh yeah, it's too ingrained in the infrastructure of everything to remove. People just don't trust it as much since it almost crashed." "Just because I am removing major surveillance does not mean I can't hear you," the Unity Helix said from a nearby television in a store window. "I'm still not sure it's the right choice," Twilight said. "It not only appeases the masses and makes them think they have more control, it makes the Marodi oversight happy too. Rainbow Dash, your people are not fans of restrictive societies." "Definitely not," Rainbow laughed. "I mean, the first thing we did when we arrived was drive the moon out of New Alice City." I still can't believe it didn't think of that when aiding Twilight. "Blame Pinky for being amazing." "Or me for slapping him in the face with my wiles," Twilight grinned. Rainbow rolled her eyes. "You have a really bad track record with higher entities. Don't try to spin it." "Psh, I'm great with gods. They love me." "Oh? Want to talk to one right now? I know a few who would love to have a little chat with you." Twilight froze. She sighed. "I don't do that anymore. I don't really leave Unity anymore. Not without bodyguards." Rainbow blinked. "Wait, seriously?" My entire race depends on my continued life. Our souls are bonded. I can't be running headfirst into gods and demanding they explain themselves anymore. That almost ended in disaster. She laughed nervously. You know we have soul wizards, right? Rainbow asked. What? I'm sure Corona or somebody could find a way to separate your race from your soul. Or, Cosmo Sparkle. She had a similar problem in her world. They probably fixed it. Maybe. Twilight blinked. Rainbow, you are going to free my soul, and then you and I are going on a trip through the entire multiverse. A road trip. Rainbow laughed. I can help you with the soul thing, but I'm going back to the Wonderbolts unit, and you can't follow me there. Sorry. What's so special about these Wonderbolts? I'm their captain. We specialize in precision military strikes and shows of force. We aren't really an exploration team. I was just on loan when I got lost in your mess of universes. Oh. Twilight blinked. I'll still find some other way to explore. The curse of boredom is not so easily cured, you know. Rainbow smirked. Oh, if you go exploring, you'll never be bored. You can trust me on that, Twilight. Can I bet on it? You don't have any quid yet. I can make some! Quid is managed virtually through magic nodes, so it can't be duplicated effectively. Aww. Sorry, no wallet party in Marodi space. We know our own tricks. You guys don't know how to have any fun. We have an organization called the Pinkie Emporium, composed almost entirely of different versions of Pinkie Pie. We know how to party too well. Jeez. Quasar landed in front of them, shaking the earth. Twilight Sparkle. Fancy running into you here. Hey, big guy. I haven't seen you since I saved the world. She grinned. You were lucky I wasn't on the other half of the plan, or I would have given you the Wham Wham Twilight Sparkle Special. I was going to ask you if you wanted this vacation to Celestia City, but then I remembered you were insufferable. Goodbye. Twilight's smile fell. Well, wait! Quasar! We're buds! Come back! Rainbow rolled onto her back, laughing. Scarcity tapped her hoof angrily on a console. You know, Glimmer said, it's not like this is the first time everything's gone off the deep end. Scarcity said nothing, continuing her relentless tapping. We've still had more successful outings than failures, and we'll go on to have many more. No response. Glimmer sighed. You can't do this forever, you know. You may be ancient and immortal, but this is going to get to you. Watch me, Scarcity thought. Glimmer sensed it was a good idea to get out of her presence. Perhaps give the remaining crew an empathetic speech. Scarcity certainly wasn't going to give one. The Enchantress looked out at her world. Just a few weeks ago, almost all of it had been desert. From the rocks she had stood upon with Fluttershy and Rainbow, it was endless. It was still dry, but it wasn't sandy anymore. She could see a river cutting through the soil, a few scraggly cacti dotting the shore, and the starts of bushes. The mushrooms in the caverns below had exploded now that magic was back in full strength, and the places where there were still plants had started to recover. The moment Rixlin had been killed, the magic returned to all Earth ponies and Pegasi. The Earth began to bow to the ponies once more, and the weather became their terraforming tools. Naturally, the Marodi helped with the weather and the reintroduction of plants, but the Enchantress had asked specifically for them to stay distant compared to their relations to the other worlds. The rune of Capelia was not to be touched by them under any circumstances. There would be no experiments, and no use of the rune in any capacity beyond restoring magic to the world. She liked to think that Scarcity appreciated that, wherever she was. Though, if she was honest with herself, Scarcity was probably livid she made an incorrect judgment. Such was her way. At least she wasn't coming back. The Marodi's protection was enough to keep Starcross from dropping in and nuking the universe. The Enchantress shook her head, smiling. No use dwelling on scarcity. Instead, why not dwell on the river? The green? The ponies around her? She didn't do it. She didn't save the world. Sure, she was part of it, and it wouldn't have worked without her, but it wasn't her. In the end, it was really only Applejack who saved the world by her own merit, and Applejack had never really wanted to be a hero. Those who want victory more than anything will have it taken from them, and those who care not will have victory thrust upon them, she told her friends. Turning to look at them, her smile only widened at the 3 other members of the newest Marodi Expeditions team. That sounds wise, Aegis Fluttershy said, leaning on her giant shield, polishing her armor in the light of the sun. Almost all Marodi agents chose alternate names for exploring, and Fluttershy had chosen hers to match her shield. Aegis. Where'd you read that? Just came up with it myself. You should be a poet, Scribble Pinky Acorn said, grinning. Acorn was not a common name for Pinkies, so originally she had just thought of going by Acorn, but she quickly decided she didn't like it. There was a Scribble Pie in the Pinky Emporium, but Scribble Acorn didn't particularly care to keep her name truly unique. Or a philosopher. You've been doing a lot of musing lately. Just don't write it down. I doubt my musings would be very good protectors for us. You never know what might surprise you, Amber Twilight Sparkle added with a coy smirk, her name chosen after her armor. She wasn't wearing it now. Even she admitted it was a bit gaudy, but she felt connected to her Amber Phoenix. Maybe we'll end up in a world where we have to speak in rhymes or die. I hear that's what zebras are like in a lot of worlds, Scribble added. Then we'll have to tell them there's another way, Aegis asserted. Or beat it into them, Amber chuckled. Amber! What? It's what we do! Sometimes. More often than Aegis would like, Scribble observed. For a weaponsmith, you're pretty peaceful. The best offense is a good, peaceful defense. You've been watching too much sports ball, Amber accused. Yes, I have, Aegis giggled. Girls, the Enchantress said. Perhaps we should consider this on Celestia City. We don't want to be late for our lunch with Renee. Oh, of course not. Aegis pulled a dimensional device out of her armor and opened a portal to a massive city that sprawled in all directions, including the sky. Right this way. Aegis, Amber, and Scribble hopped through the portal. Their leader, the Enchantress, the rarity of the Crystal Sea, went through last. Her chosen name? Hope Rarity Poncia. I keep thinking back to Sports Ball. Sports Ball. Interesting choice of name. I wonder if he got that from somewhere? Made it up himself? I don't know. Is sports ball there's actually something it is, or is it just a concept and we never see it? I don't remember. Sports ball. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and read the credits as part of this chapter. Amber Ashes by G.M. Blackjack. Chapter 33. Credits. Credits. Amber Ashes. The End. By G.M. Blackjack. Starring Hope as Enchantress Rarity Poncia. Amber as Empress Twilight Sparkle. Scribble as Pinky D. Acorn. Aegis as Fluttershy, Goddess of Battle. Rainbow Dash as Never Changing Her Name. The Blue Bolt as Rainbow Dash, Fastest Thief Alive. Applejack as The Hero. Scarcity as Star-Crossed Destroyer. Glimmer as walking mental issues, Rixlin as the gardener, Unity as Big Sister is sorta watching, Quasar as he's a dragon made out of stars, that's wicked awesome, Hazel Acorn as the loving husband, Red Rage and Red Riot as battle twins, Temple Brick as the confused priest, Nod as nondescript darkness, Jupiter as king of the abandoning gods, Uranus as temporal shenanigans, Blueberry as overstressed manager, Dust as are you sure she's not a pinky, Auburn as thief of thieves, The Moon as do you like bananas, Shine as oh yeah, he was a bad guy, Renee as overhead of expeditions. My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic, belongs to Hasbro. Special thanks to the commenters, as always, including Fan of Most Everything, Golden 123123, Niece, Avendriel, Keybounce, Crackfic Kai, Blackhoof, Undead King 243, and Keench. Some of you may already know this, but Amber Ashes exists for a reason. People have said that Songs of the Spheres, my magnum opus of a story, is just too big to recommend to people. So Amber Ashes was created to use a lot of the major themes and ideas in Song of the Spheres without a million words of build-up. My hope is, if you enjoyed this story, you'd be willing to check out something much larger that goes into a lot more detail about the multiverse, how stories play into reality, and how a bunch of adventuring ponies can slowly become the central part of a massive multiversal nation. And for those of you who have already read Song of the Spheres, you can use this as an introduction to ideas in Song of the Spheres. In fact, I actually recommend reading Amber Ashes first. It spoils a few things about the Starcross Society, but it also lets people know what to expect further down the line. This story was, and was always intended to be, a self-contained introduction. But it stands on its own. If you want to leave it here, by all means, Amber Ashes is complete. However, there is so much more story to be told. GM, Master of the Multiverse. P.S. And yes, I did edit Hope into 2 scenes in Song of the Spheres, both of which are published. I wonder if you can tell me where they are. Many years later. Hope set her teacup down. So, a question. Renee looked up from her drink. How did all this start? You don't just become a multiversal nation overnight. Well, sometimes it sure feels like we did, Renee giggled. Oh, where to start? My story, the story of the Marodi, or Evenings. The day the bowling ball fell into our lap, or the Starcross Society itself, and... my word, there's a lot of events that led us here. It's hard to say where it began. Well, what do you consider the start of your story? Renee smirked and adjusted her glasses. I guess we'll jump a bit back from the bowling ball into the multiverse, to the opening of a book. After all, you aren't from a baseline Equestria. You probably do need to hear it, and it will be great to relive the old days. She cleared her throat. A long time ago, in the magical land of Equestria. Hope situated herself and prepared to listen to a long, long story about friendship, magic, evil, and eventually more universes than her mind could possibly keep track of. I thought I'd mentioned that Dust seemed very Pinky-like, but I guess I hadn't said that. Anyway, yes, I certainly agree with that assessment. Shine as, oh yeah, he was a bad guy. Yeah, he didn't really have much characterization, did he? He was just kinda there. That's okay, I mean, he wasn't one of the major villains. He was a minion, not a force himself. This is the end of Amber Ashes. I'm probably going to take a little while as a break before I start on my next thing. don't expect another start to another story until, maybe next Monday. Thank you for listening. I hope you all have a pleasant time, and I hope you enjoyed the story. Stick around for the next one, whether it's more in this series or something else. And if you haven't already, feel free to listen to some of my other productions. I appreciate your time, and I hope that you've enjoyed what I have to offer. Goodbye, everyone.